Hi, John. Wayne Goshgarian. I'm the senior advisor of the Association of Entrepreneurship. John Fleming, thank you so much for participating in this interview. And we're really inspired by your books. You have two books that you released. And this one we're going to talk about today is The Ultimate Gig. Just so everybody knows a little bit about John, he's been involved in direct selling for over 40 years and was a former executive at Avon, publisher and editor of Direct Selling News. He also focuses on speeches, research, writing, and consulting. Today, his voice is spoken among the gig economy, which, as you know, everybody knows is exploding, and has sought flexibility, freedom, and rewards associated with that type of work. I mean, with the AI coming along, it's really changing. His recognition includes Direct Selling Association Hall of Fame, Direct Selling Education, Foundation and Circle of Honor, and Direct Selling News and Lifetime Achiever. He's written two amazing books. The first one was The Ultimate Gig, and the second one is The New Economy, Flexibility, Freedom, and Rewards. Thank you very much. I thought we just today hit the first chapter of your book, John, and talk about what inspired you to write the book to begin with.
Yeah, Wayne, first of all, thank you for inviting me to have a conversation with you. And this is a favorite subject, and the Association for Entrepreneurship is one of those entities that I know from experience with you that's really focusing on supporting people from all walks of life who are finding new pathways into entrepreneurship and building the business of themselves, possibly as a solopreneur or independent worker. So this is a joy. I love to spend my time talking about these kinds of things. So thank you again for inviting me to be a part of your conversation. And you
Well,
bring up a good question. I have received that question a lot. What drove you or inspired you to focus on the emergence of the gig economy? And I'll go back to 2018, 2019, and I had stepped away from my focus on direct selling models exclusively. And I was looking at trends and what was going on in the marketplace, and we were just recovering from COVID, and a lot of people had been forced to work from home. And as I looked at the negative trends of some business models, such as the one that I had spent so much time involved in for many years, and I am talking about direct selling, the appeal seemed to flatten and diminish a bit.
yeah,
But when I looked at the gig economy, most people think it's just about Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb.
right. That's
And
right.
what I found was a new phenomenon, if you
Yeah.
will. And the appeal and participation in the gig economy was growing in leaps and bounds, while some other models were still attempting to recover from the pandemic. I
Right.
think what we learned from the pandemic is that people can work when they are working in a non-traditional format.
Yeah.
So many people learn to work from home, to use that expression. And then the gig economy comes along. And if we just use those three companies as a reference, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, what I realized is that they don't own anything. They don't own
No,
buildings or
that's
property
true.
or cars or anything. They allow people from all walks of life to participate in their model and deliver the service.
Yeah.
So Uber doesn't own cars like the taxi cab companies did. They don't park cars. The only thing they do is connect people who have a need for a service with people who are willing to provide that service with the asset that they own. And so I thought this was amazing. And then I continued to look into it. And then I became aware of firms like Upwork and Fiverr, Uh, there's so many out there. And then you begin to realize that gig work was not what I thought it was, musicians working part time.
Right.
It was something that was becoming very serious. And so that's what got me inspired to, first of all, study, learn, participate in some research to better understand what was really going on. And that led eventually to the writing of the book and then my passionate advocacy of independent workers from all walks of life.
That's amazing. You know, it's just changing so fast. What do you see as the biggest changes going on right now?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm talking to a friend, and I'll just be very candid. If you look at the news, you may get a different point of view. If you look at what's really happening, I think the ownership of work is being transferred from a few companies, corporations,
Right.
to now the masses who are not as interested in traditional jobs, whereas you go to a fixed location, work a certain number of hours every day, you pay the expense to go, you buy your own lunch,
Yeah.
and you perform tasks for someone else that owns all of the company or most of the company. The worker today, as a result of the emergence of the gig economy, actually owns a portion of the work. So I think what's going on is that we have a redefining of the word work and a transfer in terms of who owns the work.
That's right.
So people who are working flexible work are not told or dictated to when you have to work, how many hours you have to work, or how you go about accomplishing the work. The
That's true.
worker now is in control of all of that. So the Uber driver, and I hate to use that as an example because so many people think that that's only what it's about when there are over 1,000 different ways, probably
Oh,
10,000.
easy.
Whereas people are leveraging their knowledge, skills, experience, passion, purpose into the ability to earn income from those assets. So I think the worker, and that's the beauty of this, is able to be more in control.
Absolutely.
And it requires us to think and to re-examine who we are and what we want to become. And I think the options are so much greater than they were when people like you and I came along. Now, you've been an entrepreneur all your life, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
most people chose the traditional form of work. And now we find that this year, over 50% of all companies will be engaging independent workers to a major degree, not just a minor degree.
That's huge. I
Yes,
mean,
it is.
and we're not even taking into account AI now that is affecting. I mean, you see videos on TikTok now with robots picking up luggage and cutting the grass and watering it and everything. And so it's really, yeah, what you see is so true. What is the biggest benefit of the gig economy and the work, or really the lack of stability for most workers? Because there's no guarantee, right? I mean, they don't get up in the
Right,
morning, work
right,
8 hours. How do
right.
you see that in terms of changing people's self-discipline and those kind of things?
Well, you're touching on a lot of points on that one. I think all of us as individuals can leverage our assets more effectively when we understand that so much about life is self-discipline.
It is. Oh, so
And that's
much
the
of.
hardest thing to do when you're in control or
That's
more in
right.
control
I know what you're talking about.
than going to work and somebody says you're going to be here until 5 o'clock and
That's
you're going to
right.
get two coffee breaks in one lunch hour.
That's right.
So I think the self-discipline piece is probably one of the major hurdles. But the other big benefit is that when we embrace entrepreneurship, we go back to what our country was founded upon. And when you look at the history, we had a greater percentage of entrepreneurs 100 years ago than we do today in terms of the total population of
Right.
workers. So I think the trends are indicating that we are kind of returning to a very entrepreneurial form of work. Now, the good news is for those who feel a little bit uncertain, and if you're 45 or above, I would say you should be careful about where you are because you mentioned artificial intelligence, and many jobs are not going to be the same as they
Right.
were.
Oh, absolutely.
But if we explore possibilities for ourselves, we don't necessarily have to quit that job in order to explore. And when we explore now the opportunity associated with gig work or independent work or solopreneurship, however we want to define it, we have the opportunity to hang on to the tradition while we explore new possibilities that could end up being multiple income streams versus reliance upon one income stream.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's a
true.
big change from where we were. And I think as we move through this period, hopefully, and I'm an optimist like you are, it's going to mean more stability and more possibility for the person that really embraces the possibility of working more for themselves.
Yeah,
And I call that the
absolutely.
business of me or the business of you.
Yep,
And that's a
absolutely.
great idea, I think, that's emerging here.
Well, as we know, with 100% certainty, COVID changed the workplace.
Yes.
Okay, so now you got the people that used to get in their car, drop the kids off school, go to work, pick them up after school, and now they're at home. Do you think COVID super accelerated the gig economy? Because people started to think about, well, now I'm at home all day and I could take my kids to school and when they get off. And did that really accelerate people's motivation to say, you know what? I don't think I want to really work for this company for the next 30 years like my mom and dad did. I'm going to start tinkering with things. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you used the expression that I have often used. You said COVID quite possibly was a super accelerator. Now, I always refer to the fact that we believe from everything that we have observed, and when I say we, I'm always referring to Dr. Peterson, my friend, and the people over at the University of Texas, which have guided me a lot in terms of just understanding what to think about. But I think COVID was an accelerator. And all of a sudden, people realized I don't have to work with the rigidity of 9 to 5.
Yep.
And that's why the tagline to both of my books happens to be the same: flexibility, freedom, rewards. And what we found out through research is that everyone is interested in earning income or more income.
Right.
But when we started to dig deeper into the research, flexibility and freedom ranked as high as income.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's why we have people from all walks of life, the retiree coming back to be self-employed versus giving up, and people 45 and 55 and above looking at new possibilities to ensure what they thought would be taken care of by the 401k.
That's right.
And it just doesn't work the same anymore. So the mistake that I find a lot of people making is that they think, well, the gig economy seems to be appealing to young people. And I say that's true. And we know that colleges and universities are adjusting their curriculum
Oh, yeah,
to
big time.
prepare more for a business outlook than going to work for somebody else for 35 years.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we know that
absolutely.
that's true. But at the same time, in our research, we found as much interest in 35 to 45, 45 to 55, 65 and above. And by the way, the greatest growth segment in the workforce is 65 and above.
Yep, yep, that's right. They didn't
So,
save as much as they wanted to, and they find themselves wanting part-time. And some hobbies they're actually making money at, which they enjoy to do.
oh yeah. I
Yeah,
talked to a friend just it was last week who used to crochet as a hobby and make dolls as a hobby. Now she and her granddaughter devote 2 or 3 months to building inventory, and then they hit the flea markets and they have an online presence, and that's become a business.
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the world. It's changed so much. Do you ever think about that the statistics on the gig economy are way underestimated at this
Yes,
point? Yeah.
yes.
I mean, when you look at COVID and you look at AI, you look at, being in the insurance background and seeing employer groups shrinking and 1099 seasonal work and all the other stuff that goes along with it exploding. In fact, one of our clients has 50 employees and they have 2,500 registered nurses, traveling nurses.
Yeah,
And really, that's a small company, employee wise, but 2,500 people are floating out there
it's a
that
lot of
they're
people.
administrating payments to and schedules and all this other stuff. So do you think that there's employers can trust the freelance worker and those kind of things in terms of their mission and what they're trying to do? Or is there some employers that are sitting and questioning that in terms of the reliability of a freelance or gig worker?
Well, I think that that's a topic of conversation, and it's not as controversial from this point of view, our point of view, as people like to make that. And I think that even though you retain a person as an independent worker, it doesn't mean that you do not instill in them the principles and values that the company stands for and the high ethical standard that is expected of the worker. Now, if a company doesn't present any of that
Right,
or take a position on that, then the worker could do anything that they want to do.
right,
But I think it's the company responsibility to still provide guidelines so that workers conform, and then are unleashed to do what they can do best, and that is make the work more personal.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, John, we took a look at your first chapter of your book, The Ultimate Gig, and what a great inspiration and knowledge you have about the gig economy. Thank you so much for participating in our book review, and many more to come. And everybody will catch up with you later.